Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it shocks the conscience of every person, even if you've, because of your profession in arms, have been exposed to some of this kind of stuff, to see the kind of carnage that's happened in Israel and Gaza since October. Shocks the conscience. However, there's a reason this is happening. And it's not the Jews that attacked Gaza. It is not the Jews. Mr. Neuer, UNRWA's Commissioner General Lazzarini, do you know of any time that he has denounced the Hamas charter?
No, sir. I'm aware of no time that he has ever denounced the Hamas charter.
And I suspect, like me, you have read the Hamas charter and you know that it specifically calls for the destruction of Israel and the massacre of Jewish people.
Absolutely.
Mr. Goldberg, does the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, does it provide cash or simply material supplies to the people in Gaza? How does, for the American people that aren't familiar, how does that work?
There is a range of services that would typically be provided by state actors. And so rather than, this is, by the way, why if you're a supporter of a two-state solution, I've never understood why you support UNRWA. It's antithetical to statehood building. But there are a number of range of local government type services, streets and sanitations, housing, education. So a lot of services that are being provided. But there's also cash assistance. Now, back in the day when we started oversight in the Congress, this was literally bags of cash being handed out, and they didn't ask.
So can I drill down on that? Because Ms. Rudman, I think, appropriately said, you know, we've got to provide food, water, electricity. I imagine when you say housing, that might be building material. And I'm thinking in my mind's eye, thinking back to pictures from Gaza of tunnels. Tunnels are hard to build. You know, you need equipment. Remember, the tunnels were lighted, so that's electricity. My point is, for a concrete tunnel with electricity, you probably got the concrete somewhere. You probably got the electricity somewhere. And it's reasonable to believe, I think, that the American taxpayer has been a part and parcel to funding that stuff. Is that a stretch for me?
That is not a stretch, sir. That is guaranteed.
So if I'm running my household and I only have so much a month to feed my family, provide a roof over the head, clothing, and education, but I want to spend all my money killing my neighbor, is it my neighbor's job then to go ahead and continue to provide the roof over my head and the food in my belly? Does that seem reasonable to anybody here? Does it, Mr. Goldberg, does it seem reasonable to you?
Nothing about UNRWA has ever seemed reasonable to me.
Well, the United Nations Relief Workers Agency is a terrorist-supporting entity, ladies and gentlemen. America's taxpayers pay for the absolute worst of it. The absolute worst of it. They pay for all. They don't get a say. They send over the money, they send over the material, and it gets used against America's interests. It gets used against America's national security interest, against the world's national security interests. And everyone in this room knows it. Everyone in this room knows it, including people that would protest by showing blood on their hands. They're literally the ones with the blood on their hands. They're supporting that. Now, for those who say there is no other organization to take this mission, no substitute, and that we must continue to fund UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Workers Agency, while the assessment is being made. While the assessment is being made. Well, I don't know how many years you need to make the assessment, ladies and gentlemen. I've made the assessment. The American people are tired of getting up early in the morning and going to work and trying to pay their bills and also be forced to pay for people that get money from UNRWA to slaughter Jews. They're tired of doing it, and they're sick of it. We had a vote on the 28th of September. I know because I offered the amendment. I offered the amendment to defund this terror-supporting organization. Came close. 213 to 218 we lost. We came close. If we had the vote today, I suspect it might be different, because America can finally see what many of us here have seen for years and decades. Years and decades, as you have, Mr. Goldberg. This absolutely must end, and must end now. Mr. Chairman, I think this highlights, and the information that we have highlights, the fact that we all believe in the best of people in humanity. And our heart cries out to anybody on either side of this equation, and the tragedies have happened. But we, the United States of America and the American people, cannot be complicit any longer. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.